This meeting is being recorded.
Hello and good morning, good evening. Welcome to India's Mac Admin virtual meetup. I would like to thank each one of you to join this session over a weekend. Special thanks to Mark joining on a Friday evening. So thank you very much. So we have action-packed agenda. Obviously, we'll start with introduction. My name is Salim Okani, and I have approximately 15 plus years of experience on both Mac and Windows platform. I work on Jamf MDM and Intune MDM. Okay, so we are going to discuss today about Apple updates, about Jamf recent updates. Obviously, our main focus for today is Superman around software updates, and a bonus is the process workflow which I created for my organization. So let's start with Apple updates. So as of today, the latest version of iOS and iPad OS is 16.3.1 and Mac OS is 13.2.1. I am not sure if you guys are familiar with, but Mac OS 13.2.1 is a zero-day vulnerability fix created by Apple, but this is giving issues for Mac devices, specifically Apple Silicon devices. So if you have file vault enabled in your environment, or if you have recovery lock in your environment, this update can trigger a recovery screen where if the end user is an admin user, she can enter their password and they will pass through the recovery screen and the update will happen. But if you have file vault enabled or recovery lock and you have standard users in your environment, then the user will be stuck on recovery screen asking for a recovery key, which will increase your incident count to the help desk or the incoming calls to the help desk. So this is very important to make sure if you are releasing 13.2.1, you need to give the heads up to your help desk that, okay, guys, this may trigger recovery screen and there would be a lot of incidents or call coming through. That's very important. I am working with Ample Enterprise Support, and Apple says the workaround is before implementing macOS Ventura 13.2.1, request your end user to restart the Mac. Within 30 minutes of the restart, if you push this update, it will work seamlessly. Apple engineering is working on a fix, but we don't know the ETA. Anyone else, any other update about macOS 13.2.1 or 16.3.1? This is the right time to call out. Okay. Let's talk about Jamf update. So we are on Jamf version 10.43.1. There is a URL provided here for documentation where you can go and read the release notes. You can go and see what is important, what is required, and what is deprecated. There are a few high level which I have pointed out. With 10.43.x, we have many enhancements. Like we have built-in managed login items now. We have ability to recover keys, file vault recovery keys. There is an enhancement in device compliance and conditional access. On this screen, you can see that now if you go to configuration profile, under options, you have manage login items built in now, where you can add the team identifier, rule value, rule command, and you can use this built-in functionality rather than importing something which you have developed in a third-party application. There were many Mac admins who actually asked me personally that, can you tell us how can we generate or export recovery keys? So here is a slide where I'm showing that you can easily export file vault recovery key from a GUI. So you just need to create an advanced computer search, create a criteria for the devices from which you need recovery key, go to display, select file vault to personal recovery key. Okay. And when you click on view, the first view on the right will show you MacBook Air and file vault to recovery key in the asterisk. That is the GUI view inside Jamf Pro. But when you export the same in Excel, the view is it will show you the computer name, it will show you the serial number of that computer name, and it will show you the file vault to personal recovery key in clear text. So this is a good way of exporting the entire recovery key and keeping it as a backup. Maybe if you are planning to deploy macOS 13.2.1 and we know it triggers a recovery key, it would also be a good idea to export the key and give it to your help desk so that they are ready with the data. Device compliance enhancement. So we all know that device compliance was there with iOS devices. The enhancement is now device compliance is in single page with macOS and iOS. This is leveraging the latest Microsoft API. I am not sure if you guys are familiar, but the guys who have integrated Jamf with Azure AD and Intune for conditional access, they know the pain which the Mac admin face. The pain is we need to re-register the device. There are additional pop-up. There is deactivation issues. And this is the new path towards Intune and conditional access through device compliance. This leverages the latest Microsoft API for compliance. Very important thing in this is the compliance calculation now happens in Jamf Pro. That means it is very unlikely to see those false negative or false positive non-compliance devices. Maybe in near future, I will keep a dedicated session talking about Intune conditional access, device compliance. Okay, so device compliance enhancement is new. If you have already integrated your Jamf Pro with Intune for conditional access, there is no migration path created by Jamf at the moment. This is something which will come later this year. But important thing to know is Intune conditional access is deprecated, and in late 2023, Jamf is going to remove Intune conditional access from Jamf Pro. So if you are an organization who is thinking to move towards conditional access, I will recommend don't go for conditional access, go for device compliance. Okay. There is one minor enhancement in conditional access, but very important one. If you guys who have integrated Jamf with Intune for conditional access and have enabled web view for web authentication, we know that when you register your device to Azure AD, this is the prompt which you see authentication for Jamf Azure AD, and then the web view pop-up window appears. The web view pop-up window appears on top of this notification. That's where user don't see the step what they need to perform. They need to click on continue, they need to sign in, and they need to click always allow. These are the important instructions which end user was not able to see before. But with this improvement, this notification will stay on top of web view. So end user can read this notification and follow the instructions. With that, Jamf has also changed the process name. Now, the new process name for conditional access is Jamf conditional access. Sorry. I would like to call out that we now have a separate Telegram group for India's Mac admin. This is a group dedicated towards discussion on what all demos or session you want to hear from us. This is a group where we discuss, okay, next month we need to discuss Microsoft Enterprise SSO. Maybe let's discuss about nudge. Maybe let's discuss about enrollment. And we also decide on which date we are going to schedule an event. So if you are not part of the India's Mac admin Telegram group, this is the right time to scan the QR code and join the group. We are now going to switch to the main topic, Superman. So what is Superman? If you have joined my session of October month, I have given a highlight that what is Superman, and I have promised that In coming year, I am going to present an entire demo on Superman. So what is Superman? Superman is basically software update policy enforcement. So this is a script which can help us enforce software updates on Mac devices with recursive messaging and notification. It gives messaging notification to end user. It empowers end user so that they can decide when they want to update software update, and after the deadline it enforces the update. This script is written by Kevin M. White, and I have also given you the GitHub page from where you can grab the latest script available. So what are we going to cover today? We are going to cover features of Superman. We are going to cover requirements of Superman. We are going to cover what all options we have in Superman. We are going to cover configurations. And in this configuration, I am going to show you the real-time configuration which I have used in my production environment and which is working correctly. And this configuration will be available later today in my GitHub page. So when I share the recordings with you, I will also share my GitHub page link so that you can go to my GitHub, you can download my configuration profiles, and you can utilize in your environment. A big call out is make sure you test out these profiles on your testing devices. And if it's working correctly, then only deploy it to all Mac devices. Okay, so we are going to discuss configuration and how we can deploy it from Jamf Pro. It's very easy to deploy, but we are going to cover that. And lastly, the process document, the Visio flow, which I have created. I will take you through the Visio flow on the entire process, which is designed for our Mac users. So what is the features? So this solution brings end-to-end automation. Okay, I take this solution as design it one time and deploy on your end device, and it will take care of your software update because it has all those logic to automatically check for updates. And if there is any update, it is so robust that it can automatically install the software update. Obviously, it will notify end user, but it has a built-in end-to-end automation. There is no requirement of maintenance once deployed until and unless you want to change something. Okay, this works correctly with Intel and Apple Silicon Mac. If you see, there is an asterisk on Apple Silicon Mac because we all know that when we do a software update on Apple Silicon Mac normally prompts user to authenticate and enter their credentials. Okay, so we can keep it as it is so that user will be prompted to enter the credentials, or there are multiple ways how you can automate and provide credentials to Superman to automatically restart the Mac. Okay. There are extensive dialog box, which is customizable. That means we have pop-up notification, and all the description in the pop-up notification is customizable. You can customize it. You can write your own text and stuff. Okay. There are deferment options. You can give end user an ability to defer a software update or the number of times you want. And the best part of Superman is the audit logs. It has extensive audit logs. You can go to the path of Superman where it installs. You can read the logs. It's very clear. And when in need, you can also enable verbose logging so that you can see a detailed logging of what Superman is actually doing. What is the requirement for Superman to work? So Superman works with Mac OS 10.14 and later. That doesn't mean it doesn't work on the older operating system. It means that it is not tested on older operating system. Again, if you are aware, Apple now supports only Mac OS Big Sur and higher for security updates, software updates. So you will not see new updates coming on Mac OS 10.14 and 10.15. But if you still have these devices, you can leverage Superman for software updates if it is not on the latest patch level. This runs perfectly fine with Jamf Pro. I will show you how you can implement this with Jamf Pro. It's very easy to implement. Okay. By default, the author of the script has written a logic to automatically download and install IBM Notifier. IBM Notifier is a notification app which can give good notification to end users. So it is already written. In a scenario where IBM Notifier is not installed or has some issues, the script will fall back to Jamf Helper, and Jamf Helper can give the same notification. Okay. So how can Superman update enforcement? Because there are many script or application available which can, check for update, which can give notification, but cannot enforce. But Superman can not only check for update, it can also download the update, it can prepare for the update, and it can enforce the update. When I say enforce, on an Intel Mac, when the deadline is reached, take a scenario that you got a latest macOS version 13.2.1, and you said after 5 days, this update should be installed. That means after 5 days, the deadline of the software update will reach, and Superman will enforce the update. On an Intel Mac, Superman will do a force restart. So it will restart the Mac and it will configure the update. For an Apple Silicon Mac, Superman will take end user to software update screen, and user has to click on restart button and enter the credentials. If you want a similar experience like Intel, it should automatically install the software update by restarting. Then there are a couple of ways of doing that. You can provide a local account of which is already on the Mac. You can create a service account, or you can provide a Jamf Pro API account. Point to note here is all these account credentials will be saved in system keychain. And if your end user are admin user, they can go to system keychain and they can see this account ID and password. And if you don't provide the local account ID password or service account or Jamf Pro API account password, then Superman will take this as a self update, and basically after deadline, Superman will enforce nagging the end user. That means it will enforce notifying the end user that there is an update available and you need to restart and enter your credential for software update. Okay. But if you need the automation similar to Intel Mac, that it should automatically restart after deadline, then as I said, you can provide a local account. This local account has some requirement. The local account must be logged in at least once on a Mac. That means suppose if you have an account called admin, which is already there on all Mac, the local account has to be logged in once on the Mac, and the local account has to be volume owner. Volume owner is really required for software update to work for standard users. If you are not familiar what is volume owner, what is secure token, I would recommend go to our India's Mac admin YouTube channel and check my November month's video recording where I have explained detailed about secure tokens, volume owners. Want to note here is this local account can be a standard account or an admin account. So it is not necessary that the local account has to be an admin account. It can be a standard account, but it is required to be logged in once, and it has to be a volume owner. If you are providing local account, this is specifically for Apple Silicon device. So after deadline, if Superman has this credential, it will automatically restarts the Mac and it will update the software update. If you don't want to provide a local account, you can also provide an admin account to Superman script, and Superman can create a service account on your Mac devices. Okay, this service account will be visible at login stage because this service account has an ability to unlock the file vault. End user cannot log in with this service account, but end user will be able to update, or Superman will be able to update software update with this service account. How you can use service account, how you can create, if you go to the GitHub page, which is provided in the previous slides, there is a configuration profile for creating a service account. Just deploy that configuration profile and provide the admin username and password in the policy script. I will show you where, and then it will create a service account on all Mac devices. Last option is you can use MDM update account. You know, you can use Jamf Pro API credential to trigger an software update. This will work only if your Jamf Pro is on version 10.35 and higher, and your Mac OS is 11.5 and higher. So what you need is, if you are going to provide an API credential to Superman script, then you need to create a standard Jamf Pro account. This is not an AD account or user account. This is a Jamf Pro standard account, and you need to provide two permissions to this account. One is computer create ability, and second is send computer, and there is an update option, and you need to provide the update permissions to this API account. And in the configuration profile, which I'm going to show you later in the presentation, you need to add a variable called TSS ID. This variable is already added in my configuration profile, which will be available, in Mittal, can you mute? So this variable is already present in my configuration profile, which will be available in my GitHub page later today. Okay. And all this local account, whether it is local account or admin account or a Jamf API account, this you need to provide in Jamf Pro policy parameter number 4 and 5 by mentioning --Jamf-accounts equal to account name, --Jamf-password equal to the password which you have. Superman workflow. I'm not going to cover this now because I have an entire process workflow visual defined for you, but it's basically checks for update and stuff. But we are going to cover this in our video, which I'm going to show you. Now let's talk about deferment options. You know, how it gives an ability to an end user to defer. So on the right hand side, you see the notification which will go to end user. And on the title, it will tell end user that which version requires a restart. So Mac OS 13.1 update requires a restart. Okay. And what is default defer? So if you see this screen on the right hand side, there is a notification. And in this notification, I have mentioned, please make selection in 7 minutes and 53 seconds. Okay. So default defer is basically a number of seconds. So imagine this notification is gone to an end user. And as we know, end user, they will drag this notification and keep in a corner. So if an end user do not respond to this notification for X number of seconds, for example, if you have mentioned 600 seconds, that is equal to 10 minutes. So if user do not respond within 10 minutes from this notification, this default defer is basically defer the notification for an end user on their behalf. Okay, this is number of seconds. It can be 15 minutes, it can be 1 hour, it can be 4 hours, whatever you select. Okay. Then there is something called focus defer. So what is focus defer? On a Mac device, we know we have a focus mode where we can set up do not disturb. So Superman respect focus mode, and Superman also requests any application which use power assertions. That means imagine there is a Mac end device where Superman is running. So, and Superman detects that there is an application Zoom, which is at the moment using power assertion. That means it's presenting. Then automatically Superman will suppress the notification. This will make sure that it is not hampering end user while he or she is presenting. So focus defer is basically to make sure that user is in presenting mode, so not to disturb. There is a correction. Focus defer is not second, it's a count. It's a count. You can give that, okay, focus defer is equal to 5 count. That means the script will run, the script will try to notify end user, but user is in meeting, is presenting. So file time in such a scenario, Superman will automatically suppress this notification so that user is not hampered or not disturbed during presentation. Menu defer is basically the drop down menu on the right hand side, defer software update for. So imagine this notification has gone to an end user. End user is busy. So we are giving him or her option that, okay, you can defer it for 15 minutes, 1 hour, 4 hour, 8 hour, or 12 hours. Okay. This means that if user select 4 hours and select defer, Superman will Superman will close this notification, write a launch daemon that after 4 hours, I need to notify end user again. So menu defer is basically giving an ability, an option to an end user to select number of hours he wants to defer the notification. Recheck defer is basically a logic to check if any defer which was already scheduled is missed. Imagine user selected 12 hours. And after 12 hours, when the schedule came, the Mac was in power down state and that trigger did not happen. So recheck defer will already check the logic and it can adjust the logic to show that missed notification to end user. Basically, this is about focus defer, soft defer, and hard defer. So focus defer, as I said, it detects focus mode or power assertions and silently suppress the notification. There are two more defer, soft defer and hard defer. You can only use either of one. You can use soft defer or you can use hard defer. Soft defer is basically interactive update, which will show a restart dialog indicating there is no deference allowed. This means it will just notify end user that all the deference are done, please restart. It will not enforce the restart. Hard defer is when the maximum deference is completed, this will automatically restart the Mac, okay, without asking the user for approval. When I say without asking user for approval, for Intel case, it will just restart. For Apple Silicon case, if you have provided either a local account or a service account or an API credential, it will trigger the restart. If you have not provided any credentials, then for Apple Silicon devices, it will take them to software update page and it will message them that you need to click on restart. And as user clicks on restart, they will enter the credentials and then it will restart. So if your cyber security is okay delaying a software update, then you can use soft defer. If your cyber security says no, we need compliance by this day, then hard defer is recommended. But you cannot use soft and hard together in a configuration profile. You can either use soft or hard. This is the deferment preference page. On the left-hand side, you see a configuration profile, which I have created in my organization. And on the right-hand side, you see a prompt, which comes in my organization. So if we go through this, default defer is equal to 900 seconds. That means if user do not react to this notification, it will automatically defer for 15 minutes. Okay, it is customizable. You can change 900 to 3600 seconds, which is 1 hour. So it is highly customizable. So you can just mention the number of seconds you want to automatically defer it. Second is display redraw. This is very important because we all know there are many Mac users, when they see a notification, they will drag it and keep it inside a corner. Display redraw is making sure that notification will come back in the center of the screen. In my organization, it is set to 120 seconds. That means every 2 minutes, it will come to the center of the screen, which is very aggressive, but you can add whatever number of seconds you want. Display timeout. Display timeout is nothing but the number of minutes you want to wait for an end user to react on this notification. On the right hand side, you see, please make selection in 7 minutes 53 seconds. So basically, this is display timeout, which I have set for 10 minutes. And if user do not react in 10 minutes, it will automatically defer it for 900 seconds, which is 15 minutes. Okay. Focus count is equal to 5. 5 is the number. Okay. That means if the notification Superman is trying to send a notification and if user is using do not disturb or presenting mode, maximum 5 times focus count will silently suppress the notification. On the 6th time, irrespective whether user is in presenting mode or not, the Superman will be able to send the notification. Okay. So as Superman is going to suppress the notification silently, you can also configure the focus differ for how many minutes or how many hours you want to suppress. I have mentioned focus differ is equal to 3600 seconds. That means if user is presenting by default, Superman will defer this notification for 1 hour. 3600 seconds is equal to 1 hour. So you can mention seconds, whatever you want. I am using hard count equal to 5. That means if you see the notification, there is 5 out of 5 deferrals remaining. Okay. These are hard count equal to 5. That means end user can defer maximum of 5 times this notification. After 5 times, when the 6th time notification will come, it will reach the deadline and it will push the update. It will enforce the software update on the Mac devices. Okay. Then icon size, you see a software update icon size. You can customize the icon. In the next screen, I am also going to show you how can you change the icon. I kept the basic, the default one, which is software update icon. And the size of this icon is 150. Jamf Pro ID. This is the variable which I was talking about. Jamf Pro API. If you are going to use Jamf Pro API credentials, then you need to send this Jamf Pro ID variable in your configuration profile, which will take your Jamf Pro JSS, which will take your Mac device JSS ID in your configuration profile, which will be utilized by Superman to send that MDM update command. So it is required just in case if you are using API MDM update command. So I have added it for future purpose. Okay. Menu defer is basically the drop down value. Okay. So menu defer is equal to into inverted commas 900, 3600, 14400. Basically, this is 15 minutes, 1 hour, 4 hour, 8 hour, and 12 hours. So you will mention number of seconds. Superman is smart enough to convert it into minutes and hours. Okay. Prefer Jamf preference. So I have said no. I don't want Jamf helper. I want IBM notifier notification. So it is set to 0. Push major upgrade. I have disabled it. Although Superman has an ability to do major upgrade, but it is not ready. If you go to the documentation, it is clearly called out that Superman is at the moment not ready for a major upgrade, and hence push major upgrade equal to 0 is disabling major upgrade. So Superman in my environment is only looking for minor update and enforcing minor updates. Okay. Recheck defer is 4 hours. That means every 4 hours, Superman will check if there is any deferment which we missed. If not, and if there is any update, it will write a new deferment logic. Deadlines. So as we are now aware that we have added focus count, we have added hard count. So when all the deferrals are used by end user, it is called deadline in Superman. And at deadline, Superman will enforce restart. Okay. And this deadline can be set. So in my case, hard count is equal to 5. So it is a count. So imagine in your scenario, you don't want to give count in notification. Imagine there is a software update released on 1st of a month, and your organization cybersecurity says that we need compliance by 15th of the month. So you can also set a deadline by days. You can say in after 10 days from the date of release, please enforce the software update. Or you can use a date option where you can say on 10th of every month. Imagine it is February. So 10th of February, please enforce the deadline. I prefer count because count is easy. It is static. You don't have to modify the date. Days is also good, but I prefer count. Only end user can defer 5 times and then it would be an enforcement. I mentioned 5. You can mention 15, 20, 25. It is up to you. This is customizable. You can change the number and play around with the configuration which is in place. Once deadline is reached, imagine you have given focus count 5, but you reach your deadline. So although you have focus count remaining, but if you have reached your deadlines, focus will be ignored and user will see the notification and restart prompt because end user has reached the deadline and we are enforcing a software update. So no excuse, it will enforce. Display options, these are the display timer. Display timer is nothing but please make selection, which I've already discussed with you. Display redraw is already discussed, but important thing in this page is display icon. If you want to change the display icon, you can add icon as a variable in configuration profile and give the path. Maybe you can deploy your images to maybe /library/management/super folder and add the image there and give a path in your configuration profile that, okay, pick the icon from this location. So Superman will go to that location. And if it finds the icon, it will show the same icon in the notification. This is how you can change the icon. You can also give an URL. If you have an icon on an internet facing site, you can provide the URL and it will also take the icon from the internet. Workflow option. There are few advanced workflow. Imagine this is a different scenario. One scenario is, imagine there is a software update available, which is already downloaded and user is now being prompted that you need to restart. Okay. You can always add a policy trigger, obviously with a custom trigger. What does this mean is before the restart of the Mac, Superman will call the custom trigger and install the application or install the configuration or script which you have. So if there is any need before installation of software update to install something, you can always add policy triggers in your script and it will call the trigger before the restart happens. There is also a logic to skip the update. When you say skip update, that means Superman will not check for updates. And if Superman is not checking for update, it will not download anything. Then if you are skipping the update, you can still use Superman to run a custom policy. Maybe if you have downloaded a software update in a PKG form, you can skip the update and you can call a policy to install the update, which is possible, not possible. It can be an application update as well. Okay. You can also use skip update along with force restart. Maybe if you want to enforce a restart at certain date and time, you can use skip update and then enable force restart. So during that date and time, the Mac would be force restart. So there are many combinations you can use along with deferrals and deadline. So these are some advanced workflow where you can skip the update and you can still leverage Superman to call a policy to restart, including deferrals and deadlines. Now, before you deploy this in your environment, you have to validate if it is working correctly or not. So we have test mode. So you can run the Superman script along with a test mode variable. If you go to the GitHub page, which I share the link in my first slide, there is a wiki which guides you how you can enable test mode. Test mode will actually mimic the entire process of Superman, but it will not actually download or install software update. So you can enable test mode. Once you are done with the validation, you can disable the test mode. If you want to see the logging, you can go to library management super folder because super install itself on this path. So you can go to this folder and you will have super.logs. which will give you entire logging of Superman. You can review update.log file for macOS 11 higher. You can use mdm.log file for 11.5 and higher. And if Superman logs are very less for you, or if you are troubleshooting an issue, you can always enable verbose mode through a script, and which will give you extensive login where you can see line by line what Superman is doing, identify the issue and fix the issue. Deployment. So deployment of Superman is very easy. Download the script from the GitHub page, which I have provided. Upload the script as it is in Jamf Pro. Okay. Create a policy, add superscript, and deploy. Yes, we have policy parameters. In this policy parameter, you can add variables, but it is recommended that for all the variables which is static, like if you want to send a defer notification, hard count, soft count, these are very static in nature. Create the logic once and leave it. So all those things which is static in nature must be part of configuration profile. All those stuff which you think can change in future or near future, you can add those things in policy parameters. Like, if you want to provide an account information, so account information can be provided in policy parameter number 4 and 5. But if you want to configure deferments, that okay, for focus defer should be 5, user should see a menu for this many seconds, all those settings is recommended to go in configuration profile. This is a screenshot of software update enforcement policy, basically Superman. So if you see this, I have added the script, and variable 4 and 5 is blank for me because I am not giving any credential for Superman. For Intel-based Mac, at the deadline, it is enforcing the software update. It is restarting the Mac, configuring the update. For Apple Silicon Mac, it is taking end user to software update payload. User clicks on restart. User enters the credential and it will do the software update. Point to note here is there is no need for user to be an admin to do this. User has to be a volume owner for it to work. And hence I have not provided the credentials. But if you want to replicate same scenario of Intel, then you need to provide an account. It can be a local account, it can be a service account, or it can be a Jamf API account. With that, I will like to show you the process workflow which I have designed in my environment. This is very small screenshot. So let me show you the workflow in PDF form. So this is basically my macOS minor update workflow. Everything which is in yellow is the configuration profile setting. I've already showed you the configuration profile screenshot, which I have configured. Green is policy, which is going to install Superman, okay, which has the script. Note is basically the additional information which you should be aware of. Red or maroon is basically user action. What is the workflow part where end user has an action on him or her? Green, light green is a notification which Superman sent, and anything in blue color is the action which is taken by Superman. Okay, so imagine you have already configured the configuration profile, deployed it to the desired devices. You have already created the policy and deployed. So now when you deployed, Mac is checked into Jamf. It now got the software update enforcement configuration profile, all the configuration which I have showed you in this screen over here. This is the configuration profile. It's already installed. And then Superman policy has run on the machine and it is installing Superman. So Superman is a script which is agnostic of installing itself. So there is no errors in this. You can always use Jamf logs. You can see the logs that it is installed. And after a certain stage, it will exit the Jamf Pro policy and it will locally run the installation. Superman is installed in library management super folder. You can always go there, open super.log file to see the installation. This policy is set to run once every day. You can run it once every week, once a month. I set once every day because it is a smart script. If you run every day, it's not going to hamper your workflow. So I'm running it every day. There's no need to do it, but running it every day, making sure the Superman script is up to date if we are doing any changes in the script and parameters. What does Superman do? How does the workflow work? So once the Superman is installed on the Mac device, the first thing it does is it checks for update. Okay. It checks for update and it looks for if any software update is required or not. Make a note of it. This workflow is only looking for minor updates. If there is no update required, that means Mac is up to date. There is no action. Superman script will exit. It will not do anything. But if script is checking for update and it finds that, okay, there is an update required, it will download and prepare the update for that Mac OS update. Once the download and preparation is done, simultaneously, it also check if there is a restart required. If there is a software update on a Mac OS which does not require a restart, Superman will silently install the update and your Mac would be up to date. That means if there is no restart required, Superman will not send any notification to end user and it will automatically install the update and your Mac would be up to date. If there is a software update like Mac OS 13.2.1, which requires a restart, then Superman will send the notification. This is the notification which I showed you in the screen, which has the deferment option, which has defer button, which has restart button. Okay. At this notification, if user clicks on restart, if it's an Intel Mac, it will automatically restart the Mac. It will automatically configure the update and it will make sure your machine is up to date. There is an asterisk here because if user is clicking on restart and if it is an Apple Silicon Mac where you have not provided any admin credential, local credential or service account or Jamf API, then user will be prompted to enter the credentials. Once user authenticate the software update, then Superman will restart and update the software update and your Mac will be up to date. Imagine at this prompt, user is clicking on defer. Let me show you the notification. This is the notification. If user don't click on restart and user is clicking on defer, then during this defer, user has selected 4 hours. Then Superman will write a launch daemon and schedule a notification after 4 hours. And that's where I have written Superman notifies as per user choice. User has chosen to defer it for 4 hours. So after 4 hours, user will be prompted to restart or defer. And if user clicks on restart, Superman will install the update and your Mac will be up to date. Again, if it is an Intel-based Mac, it will automatically restart. If it is a Apple Silicon Mac and there is no local or service account or API credential provided, then user will be prompted to enter credentials. There is no need for user to be admin. If user is a standard account, then also he can enter the ID and password and it will be authorized and the update will work. Okay. Imagine user clicked on defer and you have said that the hard count for this defer is 5 and user has deferred it 5 times. That means user has reached on to deadline and at deadline, Superman will do a software update enforcement. That means the software update will be enforced after 5 defer. And at enforcement, if the Mac is not Apple Silicon device, then Mac would be automatically restarted and Superman will update the software update and your Mac will be up to date. But if it's again Apple Silicon device, yes, then it will ask user to restart, enter the credentials if local service account or API credentials are not provided. If they are provided, it will authenticate, it will update these update and your Mac will be up to date. So this is the workflow. which is currently working in my production environment, working smoothly without any issues. So looks good to me. With that, I would like to call out that, you know, we also have India Mac admin community on Champ Nation. It's a user group. If you join this user group, you will get intimation of the events. If you subscribe to this group, you will get the intimation of the events. If I am scheduling any future events. So with that, I would like to thank you for joining this session. Thank you.